hrithik ko base pasand hai
Hi, this is Asim.
This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry.
Amir.
Salman.
And Shara.
Hi, you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast regular feed. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We now have a Patreon channel with bonus content and exclusive merch for those of you who would like to support us. Every dollar goes towards creating more and better content. Visit us at patreon.com/Khandaan podcast.
Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan Podcast. My name is Asim Bernie, and I'm joined with both of my lovely co-hosts, Amrita and Sujoy. Hey, Amrita. Hey, Sujoy.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. Welcome to the Khandaan podcast in a brand new year, everybody.
We're
Because
back.
Papu Charu does not count.
Yeah, poor girl. I was gonna thank her for filling in for Amrita, and you're like, she doesn't count. Like, what is this extreme?
I love Yamini, but let's face it, this is Khandaan.
This is you guys are so
मैं
mean.
अपने हिस्से का हक मांगने आई हूँ.
मुझे मेरी जायदाद का हिस्सा चाहिए.
Yeah.
2025 and nothing has changed. We're as petty as we usually are. No, Yamini, I love you.
I
Just
love you
adding here.
too. I love you too, Yams.
I haven't still given her 10 pounds.
I still haven't.
George.
No, I haven't got to meet her. She's been traveling all over, so.
तू भाग जाता है ना वो यही है कहीं दूर नहीं गए
पता है.
चलो okay this episode we are doing our KAHO NA PYAAR HAI special. Is it our KAHO NA PYAAR HAI episode special or is it the Hrithik Roshan special? It's kind of both, right? No?
Yeah. I mean, you can't, differentiate between the two, right?
Yeah. So this movie, massive hit, released 25 years ago, and it basically changed the landscape of Hindi cinema, and it altered the brain chemistry of 70% of the people watching Hindi cinema. So I feel it's deserved that it gets its special. And also when I was just going through our shows, doing research and stuff, we've not talked that much about Hrithik Roshan, I have to say. We've done War, we've done Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, but that's it, right? We've not talked that much about him, have we?
Well, there is not much overlap between the Khans and Hrithik I as well, right? After other than those movies, so I guess we didn't get a chance to talk about Hrithik Roshan on the podcast.
And also his movies or his career goes really like up and down for me. Like, there's a lot of the like Super 30 we didn't cover, there's a lot of these movies that we like. Vikram Vedha was a disappointment. I did see it, but I don't remember if you talked about it. We did.
We did.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah. Fighter we skipped, right? So
I watched it, but I don't remember. I think I did talk about it, but
it was as one of your biggest disappointments of last year. That's he talked about it. So KAHO NA PYAAR HAI, it's gotten a re-release in theaters, not in the UK though. I've not seen it in UK theaters, but in India I've seen people very happy about it, dancing with Hritik and stuff like that. So we watched it, and let's get into our show. Shall we? I was thinking, like, because of the Hritik, should we do maybe first our top Hritik movies, like just to kind of get the ball rolling? Have you guys thought of that? What is your Hritik ranking? Sujoy, you want to go first? Did you rank? You probably didn't rank. You really now they Asim talked about this 3 weeks ago in the chat. I haven't done shit about it. Is that
I'm just going through
I was just about to call you out for like dropping things on us without any warning, and then you were like, "It's in the chat," and I was like, "Oh, I was traveling. I don't remember."
I have receipts. I have screenshots. I'm just grabbing now to give Sujoy some time to go to IMDb. Shall I give you my top ranking then?
Yeah.
Maybe buy some more time for you non-prepared backbenchers.
Are we giving 5?
Yeah, I had 5. So, I mean,
Okay.
give how many you want, but I had prepared. So, since now.
I think top tier Hrithik for me, like number one, like straight out of my head. I didn't even have to look, but I have to think about the others.
Yeah.
Number one is Agnipath for me.
Mhm.
Deservedly so in my mind. Number two would be War, I think. It brought back him as, gray hair daddy sort of a vibe, the resurgence of his sort of older guy sexiness, I suppose, and also introduction into the spy universe. Then I'm struggling. Probably number 3 would be KAHO NA PYAAR HAI in a way.
Okay. You really loved it. Like you were texting, like
Yeah.
watching it. It's like, oh my God, I miss this cinema.
I'm lost after this.
Top
Like
3. You're stopping at top 3. Yeah.
Maybe like Laksha, Krish, or Mission Kashmir, probably. One of those, but not sure.
Amrita, do you have a ranking in your mind? Like these
No.
are my tops? No? Okay. These are mine. Okay.
Okay.
Number 5, I've got Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, I've got War. 2, I've got. Wait, what did I do? I missed it, obviously. I have 5, but I wanted to kind of, because I respect it more than it deserves to be on the ranking. It's actually Kites.
Okay.
Because I respect it for what they were trying to do. Making like this a Hollywood movie with an actress that blew up his marriage, and like Anurag Basu and Kangana, and like do it in 2 languages. So it was like a whole, like, it was not the right director, not the right thing. But I kind of respect what they were trying to do at that time, where there was a moment where if somebody can cross over, it might be Hrithik, right?
Yeah.
Amrita, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's funny. As you were talking, I was just lamenting once again that we don't have, oral retellings or like oral histories of what happens on set. Because I bet the story of Kites is epic. Way better than the movie.
It truly is. It truly is. And I think maybe we should be the ones doing these oral retellings if people are interested.
I can bet my ass on it. The Roshans will not cover the Kites.
Yeah, they will not be covering it.
It will probably, in the documentary, it never really happened. It's a fever dream. Like, who wants to go down the lane of Kangna Ranaut in the Russians, right?
Yeah, so 5 was actually Kites. Then Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. Although Zindagi Na Milegi, it's not his solo movie, but chalo. Then War, Jodha Akbar on number 2, and then Agnipath on number 1. That's my ranking. I feel a lot of people would put Guzarish there. They would put Super 30 there. They would put Kabil there, maybe even. But those are not my picks. I actually don't even like the Krish movies that much. Like, they're not like.
I think for me, like the last Krish 3, weird numbering, but I quite enjoyed it. Like, it was. It felt like they were really riffing off the superhero genre that was going on. Like the Avengers were coming out at the same time, and they were like, we really need to push some things. And I think they pulled it off to some extent. Obviously, budget constraints and all of that, put aside, I think they really played into it. I quite enjoyed it as a movie. Not as much. Like, I didn't enjoy Koi Mil Gaya as much. Or the first Krish.
I really did. Yeah, I really liked Koi Mil Gaya. And even over Krish, I would have put Dhoom 2, for example. Like, that, I like that slightly more. But that's kind of my ranking on Hrithik. Any would you change it? You're not such a big Agnipath fan, right? Like, is this a boys' movie, Amrita? Like, this is like too much.
I think so. I liked it. It's not that I didn't like it. But Agnipath is always going to be an Amitabh Bachchan movie for me. It's as simple as that. And I appreciate Hrithik in it. I don't think that he was bad or anything. And Sanjay Dutt was definitely, and Sanjay Dutt and Rishi Kapoor and like all of them were really great and Priyanka Chopra, like great as a supporting cast. Yeah. And In that one song, she was amazing.
Chikni Chameli, man.
Yeah.
Talking about altering brain chemistry.
Yeah. And that was a swing for Katrina. Like, she had never
Yeah.
looked like that before, you know? Like, that was quite something. But yeah, for me, like, the original Agnipath, which is a mess, by the way.
Yeah,
Like,
it is a
like,
mess.
it's a huge
Racist
mess.
also, like, it's very...
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, all of it is just like weird. But it's Amitabh Bachchan weird, you know, Amitabh Bachchan in the 80s weird. And
Danny Denzongpa, by the way.
yeah.
Like, he looks so hot in that movie. Like, it's crazy.
So yeah, for me, like, that's the superior Agnipath, despite all evidence to the contrary. And but like Hrithik, I don't think I fangirled Hrithik in a hot minute. Maybe in War, but War was kind of camp. You
Yeah.
know, like that whole angle with Tiger Shroff being like baby bird looking for mama bird Hrithik. The whole thing, like, I don't think I was obsessed with it the way that, say, I was obsessed with Jodha Akbar or KAHO Na PYAAR HAI or even like Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, you know, like these were all like really great Hrithik performances and like really great Hrithik movies.
Yeah.
I personally don't think he was very well cast as Akbar. Like, his Urdu is a little bit self-conscious and South Bombay for it to actually land. But I still enjoyed the movie. You know, it was like probably the last Ashutosh Gawariker movie that was actually any good. Yeah, I don't know if I have a definitive Hrithik ranking or even a Hrithik movie that I keep going back to.
What are your thoughts on Guzarish?
I have only seen it once.
Like, I respect it. I don't like it.
That's like, yeah, the thing is that I don't really respect it, to be very honest. It is because, you know, like, there are some movies that they make it, and you know, it has these highfalutin principles, right? Like, it is a mission movie. It wants to say something, but it is so naked in its desire for validation and for bouquets that it sort of strips away the cinema aspect of that film for me. So when I'm watching it, I'm kind of watching a project or a thesis. I'm not watching cinema. And that's what Guzarish feels like to me, because I should love it, because it's a great Aishwarya performance. It's a great Hrithik performance. They're both pulling out all their stops. You can see that both of them at that point were really trying to make their mark as actors. And people were being very unkind to them at that point as well, I think. And talking about how, you know, they're pretty faces, but they're not really actors, blah, blah, blah. And that had been going on for a while. And I think they really wanted to prove people wrong with it. So there was a lot of things happening. But I don't know if Sanjay Leela Bhansali is the director who I would entrust with making a reasoned argument for euthanasia. Like, that's not what Bhansali is about. And every time he does things like that, like what he did with Black, for instance, which a lot of people love, right? And they're just like, oh, what a movie. And I thought it was a horrendous movie when I watched Black. Like, it was just, again, it was just naked in its need to be more than it actually is. So, Guzarish, excellent performances, but I don't know if I like the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember it was also like a remake, right, of a Pedro Almodovar movie, if I'm not mistaken, Beyond the Sea or something. I don't know what it was called, but
Javier Bardem.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to quickly mention one small role that Hrithik did as a cameo in Luck by Chance as the superstar Zafar Khan, and that's probably one of my favorites. Like, he really, plays that role really well, being the superstar that he actually is, but also navigating through, all the politics within the system, trying to negotiate with Sanjay Kapoor as the Nepo director Bhai, but also being enamored by the life that he lives. That particular scene where he interacts with the kids on the street. That's such a beautiful scene. And also that party conversation that he has with Karan Johar when he sees Farhan for the first time. Yeah, I love that.
Okay, because you mentioned superstar, I think this is also a good conversation. Where I think when he started, he was going to take over Shah Rukh. That was what the media byline for Hrithik Roshan was. Clearly, that's not happened. Like, not even close, I would say, right? Where do you feel he stands, like his legacy at 51, 52, whatever he is? He's really feels like he's at the end, like not end of his career, but like reaching like a phase where he's like calming down a little bit. Like he's really like the gray hairs are out, like it's really like old man Hrithik already, which I find so surprising when Shah Rukh is not in that era either, right? Like he's embracing the gray more than anybody. But where do you think he lands? Is he like number 6? Is he number 8? Number 10? Where is he?
He's definitely in the middle, I think. You can't count him out any more than you can.
Who's above him and who's slightly below him? Let's do it this way, like if we can,
the three
right?
Khans are definitely above him.
100%.
Ranbir is above him.
Ranbir is above him. Okay.
Shahid is below.
I would agree.
As
Ajay, Akshay are below, I think.
Yes.
You think?
Yes.
Like in terms of people going to watch a Hrithik movie, the pull for that versus going to watch an Ajay or an Akshay movie right now, I think so, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially after War.
Yeah.
Because War has kind of brought that back.
Can I just say, I feel you guys a lot of times are very negative toward Ajay Devgan in general. And I
Says
feel
the man. I just want to point out that Asim didn't even go watch that movie that he did with Tabu after being all like, oh my god, Ajay Devgan, Tabu. Oh my god, I love Tabu.
It's only because you told me that they're barely in it.
Oh, now it's my fault.
It's your fault.
I kept Asim with his great love.
No, but I'm saying like he's like you don't know how big of a hit Shaitan was last year. Like he is still delivering. Like no, Akshay, we can say he goes up and down. Like Akshay goes up and down. At the moment, he's slightly down. Right, he'll come back 100%.
Slightly down.
Yeah. I mean,
consider a movie like Vikram Vedha, right?
Yeah.
The moment it was announced,
there's a buzz. Yeah,
there is a buzz for sure. Like compare that to an Ajay movie gets announced, because Ajay makes like 19 movies a year. Akshay also makes 19 movies a year. The Hrithik movies are almost feels like a special event in a way, because he doesn't make that many.
Because Ajay's movies work when they're good. Hrithik movies open. And I think that's the difference, right?
Yeah. Because I was about to say, like, it's more instructive to look at the movies that didn't work for these people rather than the movies that have worked. And that is also how I look at the Khans. I look at the movies of theirs that are like absolute turds. And then I see how they open. Like, there was no way that, Kabhi Sautan Kabhi Saheli could have made those numbers if anyone else had made it.
Yeah.
But because it was Salman, it opened to a certain number. And the same thing happened.
Salman has been on such a bad run, and there is not a conversation that he's not a superstar.
Yeah.
There is not.
There's nothing denying that.
Amir still, there's a conversation happening that he's not where he was. He's literally just done 2 underwhelming movies, and it's like he's lost everything he had, right? Like he's like just begging people to watch his son's movie now, which is insane to me. Salman, there is no doubt he's been like, it's turd after turd, but there's no doubt, right? Shah Rukh, even there was a bit of doubt. I feel it's weird, like these kind of things. So yeah.
And Fighter, if you look at it, like it was a big flop.
No, it made a lot of money.
But it made a lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah.
So I definitely think like Hrithik is above Ajay and Akshay. I think he's definitely above Ranveer.
Right. Yeah.
I think
So you're saying number 5, basically.
I would
That's
say
what I'm
number
saying.
5.
He's number 5.
So above him are the 3 Khans and
Ranbir.
Ranbir. Okay. I'm happy with that.
I can live with that. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I think that. I mean, I would like maybe put Ajay and Akshay above, but I also see what you're saying. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, let's get into the movie then, right? I don't have any other side topic that I had prepared. This was it. Let's get into Kaho Na Pyar Hai, a movie. Honestly, I have not seen since. I don't know. I'm not sure if I've seen it
Since 2000.
Might have, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. So I want to go to Sujoy first because you loved it. Your mind was going crazy. It's like what
Yeah.
you needed. How was Kaho Na Pyar Hai watching it last night, and what did it bring back from watching it the first time?
Oh man, this movie was such a phenomenon when it released. Like, I will never be able to do justice with my words to convey the amount of pop culture milestone that this movie is, in a way for people of my generation growing up, in my teens when this movie came out, the promotion cycle, like there was not a hero like this before him. In a way, it felt like the Khans came, but there wasn't like a debut movie with so much sure, like self-assuredness, in a way that like he knew that he arrived even with the first movie, and you could sense it. And like yeah, the dancing, the muscles, the presence, the all of that came back to me yesterday. Like and obviously, like post 2000, everybody, even Hrithik, like even when he gets his lifetime achievement award, he will have the Ikbal Ka Jeena theme playing, right? So this is the movie that marks his career from the beginning to the end. This is the alpha and the omega for him, I think. And it's such a blast from the past for me because this movie is 25 years old. It marks a special place in my life when it came out. I was still a teen, and like, yeah, dancing to Ikbal Ka Jeena everywhere I could go. Yeah, this was amazing, man. And yeah, all of that, like the innocence that I had and the naiveness that I had, all of that was marked by this movie. Like the worldview that this movie has. And I also like went back to thinking, like, like for me, my first Rakesh Roshan movie was Khoon Bari Maang. And probably one of my earliest memories of watching any movie was Khoon Bari Maang. Not a child appropriate movie, by the way, but that's how I was raised. And sort of mirroring how that story structure is between Khoon Bari Maang, Kaho Na Pyar Hai, even Koila or Karan Arjun, and how the story beats come back and play even in a romantic movie like this. And yeah, all of that, I was thinking out loud. And yeah, it's such an interesting movie to watch into 2025.
What about you, Amrita?
I really enjoyed this movie, but I was just thinking about what Karan Johar said about K3G versus Dil Chahta Hai. And he said when he first saw DCH, he immediately knew that K3G was dated and it belonged to an earlier era. And as I was watching Kaho Na Pyar Hai, I was like, oh, this is the era, you know? Because there's so much about this movie that the way that it is structured, the storytelling, the dynamics between the characters, the dialogues, all of it is so classic 90s Bollywood. And it is so classic Rakesh Roshan. And you immediately know that you're watching a movie by a Bollywood veteran because the tropes are instant and instantly identifiable. You immediately know the beats of this movie and the characters, and you have all these little shorthands to explain who these characters are and what is important to them. Like, for example, the Farida Jalal and Tikut Alsania character. no, sorry, not
Satisha.
Satisha character. Um, who they are, they're like such a Bombay staple of a character.
Yeah.
Um, the way that they have this relationship with these two kids and how that works, all of that, it's such a Bollywood movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of was thinking about how this was probably the last of the great Bollywood Star Kid launches. Like we still have Star Kid launches, but we don't have this kind of a Star Kid launch. Raj Kapoor did it for Rishi Kapoor with Bobby. Rajendra Kumar did it for his son,
Kumar
um,
Gaurav.
Kumar Gaurav, with Love
Love Story.
Story. And, but this particular one, I think this was probably the best of the Star Kid launched by their dad series, because Rakesh Roshan really, really set up Hrithik for success. I don't know what else he could have done. Like, he
Yeah.
showed Hrithik, because when you look at, say, Bobby or Love Story, or even later, although Ranbir was officially launched by Bhansali and not by Rishi Kapoor, these young men who were launched, they're all sort of, Bollywood twinks. They're just, look at them, they're like beautiful chocolate boys. With Hrithik, it was very much, here is a beautiful man. He can dance, he can charm the women, he can fight, he can ride cool bikes, he can do all the things that a leading man can do. And it was immediately, he was launched into a tier, like you said, where he was seen as a threat to Shah Rukh, who'd been working at that point for like about 10 years.
Mm.
And that kind of, that kind of force behind a Star Kid, I don't think we've seen anything like that since.
And also, like, I'll just quickly go back to Luck by Chance in the intro scene where Saurabh Shukla is teaching his acting class, right? And he's like, Bollywood mein hero banne ke liye kya kya papad belne padte hain. You have to dance, you have to do the ghorsavari, you have to do action, and you have to deliver the lines with perfect diction. All of that is Kaho Na Pyar Hai to me, right? It's like such a that is the template of the Bollywood hero set in the new millennium by Hrithik Roshan. Like every star launch since Kaho Na Pyar Hai has been trying to replicate that with various degrees of failures,
Yeah, because like the Harman Baweja was launched this way.
Yeah. Tushar
Kapoor was launched this way. There were a few others, like the Burmawala boys. They launched their kid like this, and there was another one, something. Harsh. There was a Harsh somewhere.
Bhagyashree son.
Yeah, they all were launched this way, and none of them were able to capture what Hrithik did. And I think it's not just Hrithik being Hrithik. I think it's also Rakesh Roshan being Rakesh Roshan.
For sure.
And I think
100%.
that is the factor that people don't talk about enough, because afterwards, Hrithik wasn't able to find footing until again they had Rakesh Roshan update him with Koi Mil Gaya. Like, I'm not downplaying all of the other movies that he did that was successful.
No, but those movies were stinkers.
Yeah, I mean, you had Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, you had Mission Kashmir, Fiza, but you see him dance in all of those movies. It's exactly what he's doing in Kaho Na Pyar Hai, that lanky dancing that he does with the slightly popping and locking thing that he does. And there was no identity to him except Kaho Na Pyar Hai until a new identity was formed with Koi Mil Gaya.
Yep.
And I think all of those other actors that got a launch to their dad or didn't get a launch to their dad, if their dad was producing it, they never had a filmmaker that made a movie that was that much in touch with the cultural zeitgeist. And I think also what Amrita you're saying is that the zeitgeist shifted straight after this movie. We came into new Bollywood, and new Bollywood would not accept a Sunny Deol star launch anymore. And that's what happened to all of these other kids that came after, the Harman Bawejas and stuff like that. That Hrithik kind of closed that chapter. Like, this is kind of the perfected way of doing it, and there's nothing after this anymore. And that's why Ranbir had a very different launch. That's why even Sonam had a different launch. These kind of people that are still kind of doing the Harshvardhan Kapoor, right? It's a very different launch than all of these others are getting. Where it's almost like now it's praised that my dad didn't launch me. Where Hritik was like, my dad is launching me. It's a completely different discussion we're having, right? And watching Kaho Na Pyar Hai really made me also just think of Rakesh Roshan as a filmmaker, because he has that classic no-nonsense filmmaking that a James Cameron has or a Ron Howard has. There's no flourishes, there's no subtext, there's no themes. It's just competent filmmaking, clear editing, song, romance, fight, song, romance, fight, interval. And we kind of almost miss that level of clarity, right? Who do we have now that can do that? It's maybe Raju Hirani, maybe Rohit Shetty to a certain degree, Rajamouli, but even Rajamouli, I feel he does have a lot of fantastical ideas to his filmmaking, right? I don't think Rakesh Roshan has any of that. He's like, spend money. That's how we do it. And yeah, it's very interesting, because that's why I necessarily didn't like the Krish movies that much, because at that time we had seen all of MCU already, or like the big MCU, and he was just giving us by the beats superhero action movie, and very competently made, very clear in its intent, but nothing more than that, right? And I feel that's what I was missing in Krish, for example. But it worked really well with Kaho Na Pyar Hai. But I'll be honest, watching it last night, there was moments where I was just on my phone, because I know what's going to happen. I know where we're leading to, right? And I'm not the on the phone guy, but it doesn't hit me the way at that time it hit for people in India, I think. But yeah, it's unbelievably competently made. We've spoken about Rakesh. We've spoken about Hritik. Let's talk about Ameesha Patel. Amrita, your favorite topic, Ameesha Patel. What went wrong with Ameesha Patel's career here? Because I was watching her, and she had everything going for her. She looks amazing, great songs, amazing launch. She has a jawline that can cut glass. What happened? What happened? Do you have any ideas?
She basically just played the same character that she plays in Kaho Na Pyar Hai in pretty much every other movie that she did. And she played that character in exactly the same pitch as she plays that character here. As Sonia.
Sonia. Yeah, that's so annoying. That was so.
And it went on forever. I didn't realize that it went on for
she made a choice and she stuck to it.
That's just how Kiwi people say it.
She was the only Kiwi person there. All of New Zealand.
But Sonia is, Sonia's a very classic 80s heroine, actually. This is the kind of character that Neelam used to play in the 80s, or Farah, and it is...
Farah Tabu's sister, not Farah Khan.
Not Farah Khan.
What you all saying, yeah?
Guys, sorry, because we quickly talk about Farah Khan. On autoplay on YouTube, there was an interview. Remember, Farah Khan used to do a talk show called Tere Beach Mein or something like that?
Tere Mere Beach Mein.
Yeah, and she had Hritik on. And it's a really awkward, you understand why she's not a show host anymore, because we know Farah Khan, right? And she's trying to do a bit of Coffee with Karan and a bit of that Amir Khan show, Satyam Vijayate, and she brings on Hritik to talk about his stammering problem. And it's such an uncomfortable, and she's like, yeah, so who made fun of you, Hritik? And it's like, you did, Farah, you did. It's so clear. Farah was the one bullying him.
Yeah.
It's just a weird interview. I was like, yeah, we really tried things back in the day.
Farah, by the way, has a cooking show now.
Yeah.
She and her cook,
she's bullying her cook, which is I can't watch that.
She hosts MasterChef India right now.
What?
Yeah, on Sony.
It's crazy. But
that's insane.
Anything to not make a movie. The thing is the Farhan Akhtar way of doing things,
But yeah, so going back to Ameesha and Sonia, I think that's what basically happened. Like, this is a woman who didn't know how to act, and basically was very much a family and friends hire. As
It's
I,
literally a friend's hire. Like, I didn't
yeah,
know how close the Hrithik's and the Patels were. And he
the
was like,
and the
The
potatoes.
Patels.
and literally he invited them to dinner. Like, I was
Yeah.
invited her to, so Karina walked out. So Karina was the one that was,
Yes.
I'll come to Karina in a second. But Karina walked out of the movie for certain reasons. And according to Ameesha, Rakesh Roshan invited her and her mom for lunch. While she was just in a t-shirt and jeans, he offered her the role of, Sonia. And I was like, man, this is nepotism. You go for lunch and you get the movie of your uncle that's launching his kid. Like, the clearest sense of,
Yeah.
so that's how she got the role. So coming to Karina, I think the problem Amisha has is the problem that Abhishek had. Is that you get, as Abhishek, you have Refugee, but you're getting launched with Hrithik Roshan in the same year, who is just amazing. And Amisha is getting launched with Kareena Kapoor at the same time, who is doing, Ahsoka. She's doing Chameli. And, Amisha has nothing.
I think also, oh, by the way, I just thought of something. But so the character that Karina was supposed to play in this movie is called Sonia. And then the big hit from K3G is "You Are My Sonia,"
Mhm.
which obviously
So amazing.
I choose to believe that Karan did that on purpose because he's a messy bitch. But yeah, so the reason why Karina walked out of this movie, the certain reasons that Asim was talking about, is that the industry was very bullish about Abhishek Bachchan. And Abhishek Bachchan was debuting in this movie called Refugee, which was directed by JP Datta, who had just delivered some huge hits with Border and that other. What was the other military movie that I can't remember?
No,
But
LOC
anyway,
came after
let's see,
Refugee.
after came
But
out.
he was a
Okay.
big,
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
screen kind of
Yeah.
Subhash guy kind of director.
And
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I'm not mistaken, Rakesh Roshan's last movie before this
Koila.
was Koila, which was a misfire. Like
Yeah.
I don't think it lost money, but it definitely wasn't a hit. So everybody was just like, well, Karina, like, you should probably go with like the sure bet, which is Amitabh Bachchan's son. That's why Karina walked out, and then once KAHO NA PYAAR HAI became the biggest hit of the year, for some reason Karina decided that she was going to take it all out on Ameesha, and poor Ameesha has not had a moment's peace since. Like, to the point that 20 years later, when Ameesha finally made her return to the big screen with
Gadar 2.
Gadar 2. The one of the big things that Amisha needed to talk about was about how Karina was a total bitch to her.
अभी
It was like,
मेरे पास है अभी मैं बोलूंगी
it really was like, like she had like 20 years to come up with like new things to talk about, but she was just like,
No.
you know what I'm going to talk about? I'm going to talk about how Karina was a bitch to me, because she's still like, I can
Yeah.
only imagine the ways in which Bebo made her life impossible. But
But that's what I mean. Imagine if you have a op in your life, but it's Bebo. How do you handle that? There's no
Yeah.
way.
Freaking hell.
so yeah, I think what happened to Amisha is basically she's not the natural actor that Bebo is. And so she just sort of got pigeonholed as this chui mui si rich girl sort of a thing, and that's the only role that she still knows how to play. So I think that's what happened to her.
Yeah. So KAHO NA PYAAR HAI, massive hit, like one of the biggest hits of the year. I think with inflation, it actually does become the biggest hit of the year. Sujoy, what are the reasons that for you watching this movie, this became such a big hit? What are the key scenes, the key moments that are kind of like jumping out for you?
So this is like a debut movie, which, usually the debut movie is, Soni Mahiwal or whatever, Qyamat se Qyamat tak, love story, right? Betab, Barsat. Kaho Na Pyar Hai chooses to introduce us this lovely couple, but then the story and the direction goes in all sorts of directions. It is essentially the Rakesh Roshan thriller movie, which he has always, incorporated in all his movies. And that is what is interesting, that this guy plays two different characters. Like the Rohit is the meek one. He cannot defend himself for his life, but he still loves this girl, right? And he's trying to be this musician, hotshot. And then we get to see Raj, the foreign return guy, with all the muscles. He can dance his ass off, and we get both of these in the same movie. And as like, I did not expect this to happen in 2000. Like, none of these movies were doing that. You expect that from, like, he basically remade Karan Arjun in a way, but with just Hrithik playing both roles in a way, right? So that was fantastic. I think it also props to Hani Irani, who wrote the script alongside with Rakesh Roshan, and like they both are such veterans of the Bollywood way of storytelling. It just, there is no wiggle room for boredom for me. Even watching this last night, it just felt like this happened because this happened, this happened because this happened, and it goes, that flow proceeds. Like the moment they land in Bombay, the shootout happens. There's no, and then the mirror scenes and all of that, and even the reveal of Sergi is such Bollywood classic. Like, oh, Dalip Tahil's character is died, so Anupam Kher is now free to go. But then that reveal happens, so it keeps on going. It gives you that dopamine hit. I think even after so many years, you can see the craft in which, it's clever filmmaking. It's clever Bollywood filmmaking, and I think probably as a teen, I did not pick up on all these things. I was just, enamored by the storytelling of it, and it entertains you at every 5 minutes. Yeah, har 5 minute mein highlight hai, as they would say. It's that.
So let's talk about the differentiation of Rohit versus Raj. Like, I think that's kind of an interesting thing, because it's that era where a foreign returned Desi was still considered cool. It's not the case anymore. Like, now we're apparently dweebs. Now we're back to being debus. But but yeah, at that time, because it does play with our expectations of Bollywood convention, right? Like, when you have a two hero role, either there's like, they're twins, either there's one is good, one is bad, either one is like really adept streetwise, like Kishan Kanhaiya or Judwa, and then the other one is the good guy. Sorry,
Don.
Yeah. Or, it is the same guy. It is the same guy that just kind of like, flipped it up and stuff like that. And that's what we've been conditioned to think is going to happen. But this movie actively pushes that narrative away, that they are indeed different guys. And they're honestly not that dissimilar, right? Why does Ameesha fall in love with Raj after a while? There's no necessarily reason except that they just look the same, right? It's not that he's apparently he's a more competent fighter, but there's no reason for that necessarily, right? Like,
he's a skier. So he's
skiing, yeah.
No, but I don't know if you guys noticed, because I had never noticed this before, but in the nightclub scene where they meet for the first time, and and this is like one of the physical differentiations between the two characters. But Rohit was a very he's the boy next door.
Yeah.
Like,
100%,
he didn't have like a body as such. And then in the nightclub scene, he's wearing those muscle tees. And not only is he wearing a muscle tees, but he's also like oiled up his forearms. So his muscles are like glistening, and like randomly standing in the middle of the club with these, at like 2 in the afternoon, by the way, at the most
Yeah, like
club.
full on day. And also it's like full on light in the club. There's like no darkness. It's like a kid's disco or something like that, you know? It's hilarious. The only difference that I found is that, Rohit doesn't wax his chest and Raj does wax his chest. That's apparently the thing. But that's the other thing that I'm also like, when I was watching this movie, like this whole idea of Greek god Hrithik, right? How impressed we were. And I'm watching it now and I was like, he's not that built. Like it's fine. Like I get it. And he's presented in a certain way because of the oil on the biceps. And if you're like, if the poster is you hanging in a pull-up stance, obviously your muscle, and every time he, there's a moment where he holds something or he hangs on to something, he's flexing his bicep full on, so obviously it does, but it's not like, I mean,
well, but that is not a function of how this movie is. Like, I don't think the movie was like lying to us. I think that is a function of how the depiction of male bodies and masculinity has evolved over the past 20 years. Because if you look at the first Wolverine versus how Hugh Jackman does it in the last one, that those two bodies are like worlds apart. Like that is not what Hugh Jackman looked like.
Yeah, that's like Bang Bang versus KAHO NA PYAAR HAI.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. Like he looks like a roided up beast in the second one, right? And that's what but in KAHO NA PYAAR HAI, he's a fine, fit young guy. But like we were like, even like, I think, a lot of times we'll talk about Oh Jane Jana as being the body at that time. But we look at it now and it's like, Varun is that like on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like it's not that, like it's such an evolution that's happened. So they really present him really well for sure. And they make that separation. But honestly, there is not that much of a difference between, I think Hritik in his mind is making a lot of small changes. Like apparently one is left-handed, the other is right-handed. Apparently I read this in trivia. He walks differently, 100%. There's a different swag to him. There's moments where Raj is almost orange with the self-tan compared to, and he's wearing those glasses. But otherwise, they are essentially the same guy, and I guess that helps to say why Sonia just falls in love with him for no apparent reason except that they look similar.
Well, also like he sort of saved Sonia's life and also took revenge for Rohit, even knowing that he had no stakes in it.
Yeah. Yeah, he really had no stakes. Like he just and he also saves the little boy out of his trauma, right? Like with the face showers from Face Off. But yeah, and the other thing this then also allows the director to do is give his son 2 introductions in a movie, right? Which Ik Pal Ka Jeena is amazing, right? Like it's still like a banger of a song. And actually I found this very interesting on Pulkit Kocher's, because he's an overthinker. He's doing this overthinking series, which I love, on his Instagram. And he said that it was so smart because the previous Hritik, all of his songs are sung by the classic singers Udit, Kumar and all that. And the new Hritik only gets Lucky Ali. But those songs are bangers, like both of them. And it really differentiated that way to kind of a new era has come up. I thought that was an amazing point Pulkit made. And I hadn't thought of it this way.
But then he comes back to sing Rohit's songs in the end in the concert. And that is sung by Babul Supriyo.
That actually is one of the things that I really noticed this time around, because the movie begins with Rohit imagining what that moment would feel like when he is standing.
He's having that dream.
When he's like in the middle of the concert and everyone's going wild and he's singing his song. And in the hands of a lesser filmmaker, that would have been the perfect way to intro Rohit, right? Like, this is my son. I want everyone to think he's a rock star. I'm going to give him that. But what Rakesh does is that he waits. He makes that character, like, obviously that character dies, but then Raj has to earn that performance at the end of the film. And when it finally happens, the audience has basically lived through that entire journey. And therefore we are also now invested in
A
this
Star is
concept.
Born. It's A Star is Born at the end,
Yes.
and freaking hell, like it is reaching that crescendo, and whew, he dances his ass off, man. Like we've seen Ekpal Kajina, what he can do, but then in the same movie at the end, like Rakesh Roshan is like, yeah, this is the climax. Enjoy. This is what we have done, and gives that performance. Freaking.
And also the differentiation that when Rohit is dreaming of stardom, it's not the same that Raj is living. Like even those two fantasies are not the same. Like they look different in that, and I think that's what a good director does. When I was saying that he's very journeyman, but I don't want to downplay the talent too, right? Like these are very clear choices that a director is making. Maybe he's not doing like shadow work or making a criticism of society, but he is making these clear choices in filmmaking, which makes it such a big blockbuster and connects with us, right?
Something I picked up yesterday, and I would like to mention this. I would probably make a meme out of it at some point if I remember. But that whole last climax scene where they, stage the concert to trap the criminals is very M. Night Shyamalan in 2024. So it's like, oh, Rakesh Roshan did this before M. Night Shyamalan. They actually hosted a whole concert to, capture criminals, and yeah.
It's basically that hotel son owner, right? Dalip Tahel's son. He's really into just like concert kar lete. I was like, what? Like, let's have a barbecue and a concert kar lete. Like it's like, and also just like he's very unproblematic for a rich guy. It's like I was like, he's like a really positive guy. He just wants to help.
Abhi funding karte hai. We'll record some cassettes. We'll distribute it. Freaking indie labels.
He's basically living Anuv Jain's lifestyle, but like into the 2000 when Bollywood, like music would actually make money that it doesn't anymore, So he's just like, he was like, okay, Sonia suddenly wants to seduce me and now she doesn't want to. I'm fine with both. Okay, I'm just got an easygoing guy, liked him. I liked him a lot.
What's the actor's name? Rajesh Tandon.
Yeah. Also the guy who not the guy, but the woman who is hitting on Hrithik.
Random lady. Random, really hot for him, yeah.
Like, she's like so much older than both.
I didn't want to make that point, but I don't.
It was impossible not to notice though. Like, I was like, wait, are you also going to college with Ameesha and Hrithik? Because
Amrita, I think that is a conscious choice again to position him as a man and not a boy. I think that's the reason why. I think that is a clear, because they could have gotten any of the girls in Ameesha's entourage, right? Isn't that actress from Monsoon's Wedding in there too in the background or something like that?
I didn't know this.
I think so. Chunari, I think, is one of them.
No,
it's not.
You're thinking about somebody else. But the entire entourage is Farah Khan's dance troupe.
Right, her troupe from Mehuna and all that kind of thing.
Because that appears from Pyar Ki Kashti mein, but then they reappear in Ekpal Ka Jeena, but with wigs.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
See, you were on the phone.
I told you my version didn't have the song, so I had to go to the songs later on to go through them. But yeah, it's they could have picked a younger girl to fall in love, but they chose an older looking lady on the cruise to position him as a valid sexual choice, I feel. And it underlines with saying that it's okay for older women to lust on him, so I think that's what was happening.
I generally thought that she was probably somebody else's daughter or wife or something, and they were just like, hey, I'll give you some money if you like cast my like my daughter as this horny lady who just wants to get into Hrithik's pants.
At some point she even says, Papa or Mummy tumhara chai pe intezar kar rahe hain. And Hrithik's like, yeah. Like straight up rejection.
So the lady playing Hritik's mom in New Zealand is actually Ameesha Patel's mom.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is some auntie connections going on.
Is that her dad also?
That I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah. Shall we talk a bit about the music then?
Yes.
So Sujoy, go ahead. What were you like going through all of the songs? And this album is a banger, man. Like remember when an album used to have 5 good tracks? Like, you don't even remember that happening anymore, right? Like, it's
we
crazy.
will be talking about albums in our Carva episode when we record that freaking hell. It was a journey. But Kaho Na Pyar Hai also, like, Koila is also like a Rakesh Roshan movie, which also has amazing songs. Karan Arjun has amazing songs. So that I think Khoon Bhari Mang is probably one of the weaker ones, right? I only remember Haste Haste Kat Jai Raste. Anyway, coming back to Kaho Na Pyar Hai, this movie, like, I think Rakesh Roshan held Rajesh Roshan by the collar and like, तुम्हारा भांजा launch हो रहा है or भतीजा launch हो रहा है, you have to, pull out all stops. And he went on into his library of tracks and got the best ones, I think. प्यार की कश्ती में, what's the first song? Chand Sitare. Oh God, what a song. And then प्यार की कश्ती में happens, and then what other कहो ना प्यार है, the title track, man. I had forgotten how amazing this track was. Like,
classic Bollywood,
classic
it's such a
Bollywood.
classic Bollywood, yeah.
That rhythm, that Udit Narayan and Alka Yagnik, it feels so good to be back in that Krabi Island. It's so good, so good.
We've all been, I think now. I think we've all been.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah.
But this was before 2001. This movie came out in 2000, so this was before the whole Instagram vibe of people going to Krabi for holidays. And this movie was before Lord of the Rings, and it explored New Zealand's Southern Alps and all of that. All the locations. And I've rewatched Ek Pal Ka Jeena a lot more times than the title track, but the title track needs a lot more credit because it's selling the movie in a way. It's making the movie live a longer life beyond just watching the movie. People remember the title track and people remember the name of the movie. The title track stood out the most for me in my rewatch.
What about you, Amrita?
One of the things that really stood out to me about the music is the choreography.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because this is like we've said multiple times so far, this is such a Bollywood choreography, and it's not meant for TikTok, it's not meant for virality, it's not trying to trick the algorithm into recommending it to something. It's like, you're in Pyar Ki Kashti Mein is actually where I started paying really close attention to it, because I remember those steps because we all learned those steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
We used to all do it, and we used to do but like also the little wave thing,
Mm-hmm.
like, you remember, like, and then there's like a point where they're talking about like Gagan, and then they point to the sky and you see the sky, and there's like, it's literally just the sky. Things that would never happen these days. And also, it's not trying to be sexual. There's a sexiness to these songs, but it is not sexualized. And therefore, you could actually, like, I would feel comfortable taking my child to see this thing, or if my child wanted to practice the moves for these songs, I would feel comfortable about it. You have the pelvic thrusts and the hip swings and like all of that, but none of it is sexualized. None of that is meant to mimic sex in any way. It's just old-fashioned Bollywood choreography. And I literally, I was like one of those people going like, lot ao Farah Khan, lot ao. I just want it.
Because I was watching the making of it afterwards, and I was like, who did the choreo? Like, there's certain songs that is Farah, right? Like Pyar Ki Kashti Mein, that's Farah, that's classic Farah. But I was like, Ek Pal Ka Jeena looks complicated for Farah. But no, it is Farah. Like, she did it all.
So the story behind that is apparently when they first went to Farah and they said, can you choreograph it? So they were doing the Ek Pal Ka Jeena choreography, and they had a choreography in mind. And then Hritik came on and he started dancing and he was rehearsing. And Farah and her assistants basically took one look at what he was doing, and they were just like, okay, wait. pause, we'll come back in 3 days. And they basically came up with like a much harder routine because they were like, this guy can actually deliver. So we don't have to fake it.
No, and I was watching it and talking about virality, because we have the Love Yapa song at the moment going on, which I absolutely love. But you know that is created for a viral clip, right? Here, the KAHO NA PYAAR HAI dance step is not. It's also virality, but it didn't exist then, right? It's so simple. Even I was watching at the when the Ik Pal Ka Jeena choreography came out back in the day, it looked so amazing, right? And now I'm looking at it and it's like Toba Toba is more complicated than what Hrithik is doing. It's actually quite simple. And I'm like a 45-year-old man, and I could pull it off in a way, but it's not that complicated, right? But it's that thing that Farah was able to do to make it just complicated enough. No, not complicated. I would say Hrithik was more capable than anybody before him. Govinda was the only dancer we had at that time, right? And these are not Govinda steps, right? These are very calculated scientific steps, choreography that Hrithik is doing. And I think that's kind of always the thing that between who's the better dancer. Is it Shahid, is it Govinda, or is it Hrithik, right? I think Hrithik, and he says it himself, he's not a good dancer, which I don't believe, but he says that in his fake modesty. I'm not a good dancer, I just rehearse a lot,
that was actually one of the stories I remember around that time when Hrithik had his debut and became a huge deal. But all the PR stories about Hrithik was about what a hard worker he was. The amount of time he would spend rehearsing, the hours he put into it, the effort he put into it, his dedication to the craft. These were what we got to hear about Hrithik all the time.
And then the song that I actually like the most is the second Lucky Ali song, Na Tum Jano Na Hum. I think that's kind of the one that's people don't mention enough, because it's just also classic Bollywood, right? It's just like a mountaintop and a sari and stuff like that. But I thought that was a really, really nice song. Just wanted to kind of mention this. Any other points, random points that you have about the movie that you want to kind of bring up? I did laugh that the second club, the club in the daylight disco that they're going to, it's called Club Indiana. And I was like, is this the local offshoot of Club Angara? Like, that was
I'd like to mention that the climax song, the concert song, he's basically reading off the notes of Rohit and he's dancing to that same song. So they have a shot of Ameesha or Sonia just looking at him dancing and sort of that emotion in her head, the lover that she had in her past, and he passed away, and this person sort of the song of Rohit living through Raj is such a bittersweet emotion, and I found that quite interesting. On a choreography level, that one shot of this camera is still and Hrithik just has that uncut dance portion, one of the most iconic dance portions in Bollywood cinema, and it still works. It's still like they have not been able to replicate that because the camera and the editor nowadays love to cut and jump and do all of those things. This was it. They have that whole Michael Jackson vibe as well, where he's like, the fans
like Captain
blowing.
EO. Like in this moment, he's just like Captain EO. Can I also just say, isn't it if this movie was real, isn't it kind of shitty that Raj puts on a better show than Rohit ever could have? Like, I don't see Rohit popping and locking. Like, Raj is just bringing in this New Zealand, Ik Pal Ka Jeena vibe to the music, where it was just like, Hamara to sirf guitar or flute hai, like, he Anu Malik did, basically, for him.
Last thing is when Amrita said Ameesha Patel is basically an 80s ki heroine, the one trope that they play around it is she's just like any other 80s heroine jisko ye nahi pata ki uska baap criminal hai. Where did all this money come from? She does not have a clue.
I'm just a rich girl.
And I get sports cars for my birthday.
Amrita, any random final notes on the movie, rewatching it?
I'd forgotten how wholesome this movie is. And that is a quality that I don't know if this movie came out today, it would work. I know everyone on social media is talking about what a good time they had, how much they enjoyed it, blah, blah, blah. But I think if it actually did debut today, then people would be like, ye dekho, Nepo kid, isko acting nahi aati. Like Ameesha is also a Nepo kid. Usko bhi acting nahi aati. Like look at the dancing, it's so simple. Like they would find about 50 million things to rip it apart for. And we've just become like smaller, angrier, pettier people as an audience. And I think our movies reflect that, sadly.
Yeah. I think it's Kartik Aaryan's fault.
I would also like to point out two more things. Parzan, the Jalebi boy.
Oh yeah, he's in this.
He pops up. He's a sort of a milestone of 2000 era movies. Like he was in the Jalebi ad, then he made into Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. He was big in that as the Sardar kid, and he sort of pops up here in that aeroplanes, like the flight scene. I had completely forgotten about the mustache gag, and I remember laughing my ass off as a kid. And I was like, "Wow, my jokes, my humor have really evolved over the 25 years." So, and there are some like cinematography flourishes in this movie that is no longer seen in Hindi cinema, because obviously we moved from film to digital completely, but film, like photography, man, it like the cinematographer is Kabir Lal, who also shot Tal, and you can see that, in the way the light is used in darker scenes. And also, like, there's one simple scene where Rohit is reflecting like on his life or whatever on the beach, and it's sunset, and you can see the sunset reflecting back on his face, and it's obviously not the sunset. They have used proper lights to reflect, and that's such a beautiful way to shoot. I miss that era of Bollywood. It feels like a proper
it's
grainy wala film. Yeah,
we used to make movies,
yeah, we used to. This was cinema.
Yeah. Random notes that I had. Rohit loves the shirt pe shirt look that Mahesh Babu then used to collar pe collar, whichever one it is. Raj, they hide his thumb like they hide pregnancies in sitcoms. This is an angle, like the way he's holding it. What else did I have? There's this a lot of like red pill content out on the internet about just hot guys. If it's a hot guy, he can get away with anything if he's hot and tall, and obviously Hrithik is hot and tall. So I was like, when they were in the cruise and they were doing that magician show that they were doing, and people were just lapping it up like crazy. It just made me think, if you're a hot and tall guy, you can get away with the shittiest magic tricks and people will love you for it, And then final note, I did say nobody has a Kiwi accent in all of New Zealand. I did want to talk about lastly about Dilip Tahil's villainy in this movie, which we haven't really talked about. Because he kills the commissioner of police of Bombay. Are they Bombay and Delhi? I don't know.
Yeah, Bombay.
So he kills the commissioner of the city in probably the most busiest parking lot in Bombay, because everybody has seen that murder. Everybody. And then when they try to catch Hrithik at the concert, they dress up as a Sardar, a Pathan, and a pirate. Like a setup of a joke, a Sardar, Pathan, and pirate walk into a stadium and then get
it's
a
One
call
Piece
from
episode. Yeah.
Oh God. Comes up with this stuff,
Rakesh Roshan.
Rakesh Roshan. Yes.
And then there is the gag of Johnny Lever, who is almost on the verge of peeing, and he's...
Oh yeah, Johnny Lever's in this too.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for KAHO Na PYAAR Hai. If this movie also altered your brain chemistry, drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com. And yeah, Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and increasingly on Blue Sky at Amrita IQ.
Sujoy?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, maybe TikTok. I don't know what's the future of TikTok, but you can find me there at 93K. And you can follow Khandaan Podcast on all our socials at Khandaan Podcast.
The future for TikTok is great. We don't have Americans anymore. Like, it's going to be amazing. Like, we're going to have so much fun. You're going to miss out so much. But yeah, follow us on TikTok. But follow us on Patreon. I think that's where the real community is. If TikTok was the ones bringing community to social media, I think Patreon is the other place, and the Khandaan Patreon is the other place. And drop us an email. Follow us there. I'm Arasim Bernie on all the socials. And thank you for listening. Good. क्या बोलती